Bobby was alone when the universe said hello. At 2017 in the morning, a thin note appeared on the observatory screen. It was not loud, it was not dramatic. It was one clean radio signal hiding inside a wall of static. Then it vanished. 8 seconds later, it returned. This time, it carried a pattern. 2 pulses, 3, 5, 7, 11. Prime numbers. Bobby stopped breathing for a moment. Nature makes patterns. Human machines make them too. A satellite, an airplane, or somebody's broken equipment could fool him. So Bobby did not call the news. He turned the radio dish away from the signal. The pattern disappeared. He turned it back. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Still, that was not enough. Another observatory, hundreds of miles away, aimed at the same patch of sky. Its screen lit up. Then a third observatory found it. The note changed slightly as Earth moved. That is what a distant signal should do. The pattern repeated for hours. Then, the source slipped below the horizon. The signal stopped. Nobody knew whether it would ever return. For the next 18 hours, Bobby watched an empty screen while observatories on the other side of Earth searched the same coordinates. One found the note. Another found the pulses. As Earth turned, each telescope heard the same message rise above its own horizon and disappear below it. It was not coming from a tower, a plane, or a satellite circling Earth. Something far away had placed a lighthouse in the dark. The next night, it returned exactly when the sky carried its source back over Bobby's dish. Hidden inside the pulses was something larger. A picture. Not a face, not words, just a simple drawing built from black and white squares. At first, the squares looked like noise. Then, someone arranged them into a rectangle. The scattered marks became lines. The lines became a map. One star, several planets, one world marked apart, and beside it, a shape raising one small arm. For the first time in human history, somebody else appeared to be waving back. Bobby laughed. People ran into the room. Phones rang. Other telescopes joined. Every screen showed the same impossible greeting. The universe was not empty. We were not alone. Then someone measured the distance. 30,000 light years. Everyone cheered again. Bobby did not. He stared at that number until he understood what it meant. A light year sounds like time, but it measures distance, how far light travels in 1 year. Radio signals travel at that same cosmic speed. So a signal crossing 30,000 light years does not show Bobby that world tonight. It shows him that world 30,000 years ago. When the message began its journey, there were no cities on Earth, no farms, no written history, no countries waiting to answer. The senders had waved toward a planet whose people had not built civilization yet. Their hello crossed the galaxy while humans painted caves, raised kingdoms, fought wars, built radios, and finally learned how to listen. By the time Bobby heard it, 30,000 years had passed for them too. Bobby opened a picture of a hand pressed against an ancient cave wall. The person who made it could not have imagined a radio telescope. They did not know Bobby's language, country, or name. But the shape still said something simple across thousands of years. I was here. The alien picture now felt less like a telephone call and more like that hand on the stone. Their world might still be alive. Or, the drawing on Bobby's screen might be the last light from a place that no longer existed. The room had been celebrating first contact. But Bobby might have discovered a recording left by the dead. He wanted to answer anyway. He typed 2 words. We hear you. Then, he looked at the distance again. If Earth transmitted the reply tonight, it would reach their system 30,000 years from now. If someone answered immediately, their response would return 30,000 years after that. 60,000 years before Earth could finish one exchange. Everyone in the observatory would be gone. Every language Bobby knew might be gone. Humanity itself could be different or absent. This was not a conversation. It was 2 civilizations leaving messages for each other's future. Even a much closer neighbor would be difficult. If another world were 100 light years away, a question and reply would take 200 years. A child could send hello and leave the answer to grandchildren they would never meet. Across space, talking becomes inheritance. The person who asks the question may never hear the answer. Their job is to leave the receiver working for somebody else. Then that generation has to leave it working for the next one. A real interstellar conversation might require people to protect a promise whose ending none of them will live to see. That changes the old question about aliens. The Milky Way is enormous. It is about 100,000 light-years across. It has existed for billions of years. Human radio technology has occupied only a tiny scratch of that history. We usually imagine alien civilizations arranged across space, all alive together, all waiting for somebody to pick up the phone. But what if they are also scattered across time? One civilization may have called before another learned to listen. Another may begin long after the first one goes silent. The galaxy could contain many stories without placing their characters in the same chapter. That idea does not solve the Fermi paradox. It does not prove that civilizations die quickly, and Bobby's message does not prove its senders are gone. They might have survived 30,000 years. They might have changed so completely that the figure on the screen no longer represents them. They might have left their planet. The signal might be an automatic beacon, repeating the same greeting long after its builders stopped listening. Or perhaps a civilization old enough to send messages across the galaxy does not mind waiting 60,000 years. To us, that delay swallows all of recorded history. To something much older, it might be a slow afternoon. But there was another problem. Bobby could not simply press send. A confirmed alien message would belong to everyone. Current scientific guidance calls for independent proof, open reporting, and international discussion before any reply. No single person gets to speak for Earth. So Bobby deleted his 2 words. Committees formed. Scientists argued about pictures, mathematics, danger, and what a species should say when it has only one chance. Weeks passed. The signal kept repeating. People copied it into archives around the world. Engineers designed receivers that could outlive them. Children who had first seen the greeting on classroom screens grew older while the argument continued. The little figure raised its arm again and again. It never asked a question. It never changed. Bobby began to wonder whether the greeting had ever been meant for Earth. Maybe it was sent in every direction. Maybe its purpose was not to start a conversation. Maybe the senders understood the distance better than we did. They could not know who would receive it. They could not know when. They could only send proof that, for one moment in the life of the galaxy, they had been there. Months later, Earth chose a reply. It also chose to keep listening. Not for weeks, not for one career. The plan would have to survive elections, wars, broken machines, forgotten languages, and generations that had never felt the shock of the first night. No promise could guarantee 60,000 years. But every long promise begins with people who know they will not see the end. It was not a speech, it was not a warning, it did not claim to represent every person. It began with simple numbers, then a picture of our star, our planets, one marked world, and one small figure raising an arm. Bobby watched the transmitter come alive. The answer left Earth at the fastest speed the universe allows. It would still spend 30,000 years crossing the dark. Nobody knew what would be waiting when it arrived. Maybe a living world. Maybe a machine. Maybe nothing. But if somebody did hear it, they would learn one thing about this moment. The universe had sent a voice out of its past. And for a little while, someone was here to answer.